Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday Western U.S. regional forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I thought we'd start off with a map here I make. It's the last 7 days % of normal precipitation. And I think I have to remake this map because I used to just make it go from 0% up to 200%. But given the pattern we've seen recently, this map does not tell you that across much of the country, where you see those dark blues, we were anywhere between 200 and as much as 800% of normal. We talked about in our video earlier this week for the Western region some of the damages that we saw to some of the crops like the cherry crop in parts of California because of this. But much of the country has been dealing with this very active pattern that has set up such a big southeast ridge and a deep trough out here in the west has really got us just going on this pattern. And what I really want to diagnose in this forecast video is if there's any changes to this. You see, let me just take you back to when this all began. What got us here was this really strong, nearly zonal flow coming across the Pacific. It initially split like this around the west coast, which is why at the beginning of the month we saw some warmth. We saw quite a bit of warm temperatures here across much of the western United States. But what happened was with time, that pattern changed. And this is what it looks like now. Do you see the differences? Look at how much more highly amplified the flow of the jet stream is now. And that is kind of telegraphing to us that this trough we've been sitting in, that's been in the western United States, the big ridge that's sitting over the southeast, and that's what's made the middle section of the country so active with weather. This is what's made the west coast so active with weather. This pattern is changing, and the atmosphere is telling me about it right out here in the Pacific. We're getting shifts in the behavior of the westerly wind bursts that are coming from the El Nino region. We're getting a bit of a change in the overall blocking pattern that sits over the North Pole, that polar block, and we're getting a very wavy jet stream. And look, this is what the surface winds look like today, early this morning. You can now see we've got a couple of centers of higher atmospheric pressure sitting right off the coast, and then a broad, deep coastal low spinning in this area. And that's what this highly amplified pattern's doing. So what we're going to watch in this video is to see how permanent, how long does that ridge stick around right out there, because while it does, our flow is going to be coming just out of the north and west, skirting along the coast. And that's much different than what we've been seeing, which is where it was just coming straight onshore like this for so long, keeping us so wet recently. So that's what we're going to talk about. Let's kind of dig right into some of the bigger picture things first. Over the next 5 days, we don't break this down just yet. So because of that, we're going to continue to see temperatures anywhere between 5 and in some locations as many as 10 to 15 degrees cooler than average in the west. But look at what's going on in British Columbia up toward Alaska. We're about to get what appears to almost be like a wave break in the flow, like a wave breaks on the ocean, well, a wave break in the atmosphere, such that we're going to get over to a pattern that's going to do something like this in days 6 through 10. So we're going to be watching for a deeper trough to be developing just south of the Hudson Bay that will extend back into the four corner states. But for the west, it looks as though we're going to be able to push that ridge into the Pacific Northwest, which means they're going to begin a warming trend, which will eventually push down into California, bringing temperatures much, much closer to seasonal values by the time we get past the next few days. So we're still dealing with this chilly weather for a little while. What about big picture on precipitation? Well, here are week 1, so the upcoming week's precipitation anomalies. Like I said, the pattern's still doing this, which is why we hang on to that trough out west and just a lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms because of it. Good news is, remember, we're not screaming with strong straight flow out of the west into the parts of Northern California or Oregon, which we did get, making things very wet. But look at week 2. By the time we get here, here's a couple of the big pattern changes I see happening. You're going to see this in a few minutes. Notice we see drier conditions in parts of the Pacific Northwest. We don't see major precipitation anomalies for California or much of the West. And really what we do is we slide a ridge that's going to flatten out here, keeping kind of this area wet. But that is an important change that the Pacific Ocean is telling us about for the next couple of weeks here. And the question is, how long does it last? We're going to answer that question in a few minutes. Now let's dig into some details. Ready? When we just play this off starting early this morning, getting you through the next 60 hours, you can see out in the western United States the widespread scattered showers and storms. You saw at the end of this animation, let's just play it again here. You saw at the end of this animation a system that skirts right down here, there it is, by the time we get into the day on really late Saturday and the early Sunday morning. Let me just take it back here. So again, see the flow around the upper level trough. In fact, as I just go back and forth, you can see the whole atmosphere just doing this, right? And that is, it's kind of neat to be able to see that. Just look at it flow like that. So we have widely scattered showers and storms. These are the scattered showers and storms that are elevation induced. But then we have a system that comes through, look, about 5 o'clock on Saturday, comes into coastal Washington, Oregon, and skirts right down through parts of Northern California. Some higher elevation snow out of this, but just a general chance for scattered showers and storms through the San Joaquin Valley and through, the Sacramento Valley as this comes through. This isn't the heavy rain that we saw recently, okay? But beyond that, when we add up that rainfall through the next 60 hours, look, you can just see how widely scattered this stuff is going to be. So it's hard for a map like this to kind of pinpoint down, but you do notice out west that much of the shower precipitation activity follows the elevation. So we will have places like in the Columbia River Basin and through here down toward like Willamette Valley and then getting over toward the Palouse, but then also coming into, like I said, only widely scattered showers and storms through the Central Valley of California out of this. All right. Beyond this, watch what the pattern does with me. Remember, we're looking at troughs and ridges. I'm going to let this play out so you can see the evolution of everything. But look right here. Now we're into the second week of June. And there's an important bit of a change happening out west. Now let me tell you what I'm talking about. Take you all the way back here. This is the pattern we're dealing with, and this is the trough. See it right there coming through parts of Oregon, Northern California, and then down all the way through Southern California. That keeps us cool and wet this weekend. So I just showed you Saturday into Sunday. Highly amplified pattern. I mean, look at this sucker. I mean, that is just really, well, that's really wavy, and that's why things are staying so unsettled. But as we continue to play forward, we see a ridge building into British Columbia and into parts of the Pacific Northwest, such that we have almost a high over low pattern here. So this starts the warm up in here, but we hang into some cooler bias in California for a little while. Meanwhile, this trough and this trough are the two that are kind of governing the flow pattern over the coming days after midweek next week. They dominate the flow, and it's going to take the jet stream on a path that looks just like this. Now, if we could get rid of this trough over California, we'll start to really rebound in our temperatures. And we do that once we get into the month of June. And what happens is, see that trough that was over the Aleutian Islands? It's now moving into British Columbia. And as it does so, we see that when we get into June 5th, 6th, 7th, look, a ridge starts to build here. This is going to be, in general, a warming of our temperatures. This is going to be a trough feature that's going to send systems maybe a little bit farther to the north, which is going to help, dry things out and allow things to warm up. So we do see a pattern shift coming for June. We kind of detailed it here, but we still have to get through the next several days, which is a continuation of what we've been seeing. Now, taking a look at our high-resolution European model, taking you out for the next 10 days, again, you see the big high-pressure centers that are sitting just off the coast, which means systems are coming down like this, and they're going to sit and spin around the upper-level trough tucked away here. So watch it with me. You're going to see a lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms in the Intermountain West. There it is. And then that big bullseye of a trough I talked about coming out on Saturday, well, there it is. Coastal Washington, Oregon, comes right down to Northern California and slides south. Meanwhile, you just get a whole lot of scattered showers and storms because we still have yet. All that happened was this high pressure center just slid right down to here. All we have yet to do is to get rid of this. It's going to take us a little bit more time. Now, let me clear all these drawings off you and show it when it happens, okay? So, beyond this, look, this is now the 28th, 29th, 30th. Now you're like, wait a minute, I see some greens pop. That is just normal convective activity that we get in the mountains at the end of May and June. This is not any major system sliding through. So like I said, get through the next week and then the pattern shift arrives and changes everything for us, okay? That's the bigger picture plan that I want to be thinking about as we move forward. One thing I'd like to ask all of you to do is I kind of show you one last map here, which is just total accumulation through the next 9 days or so. I want you to take a look at this, but just listen. If you have questions, comments, or anything you want me to specifically address in these videos, just put it right down there in the YouTube comments, and I'll get to it because the West, you have much more complicated ecosystem in terms of how you grow crops than we do in the middle part of the country. And therefore, I want to make sure that I address those issues, show you the content that you want to see. Just put a comment down there, or you can email me at eric.snodgrass, that's eric.snod as in dog, grass at nutrien.com. I'll get your questions answered, change these videos to the ways that stuff that you want to see so that you're really wanting to watch them every day. All right. With that, I'm going to wrap up this forecast video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to our next Western Regional Forecast videos coming out next week. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.